Hey everybody, I hope and pray that you're doing well today as we come to our word from the Word. And today that word is answering. Answering. Now, as this week we're going to wrap up the book of Job and these last few chapters that we're going to look at, a chapter a day this week from Job chapter 38 today through 42 on Friday if you're watching daily. So I encourage you to read all of these along. It would probably really do you well to go ahead and read all of this together because you will see God shows up. God is now going to give the answer. And that's really the answering reason that's the word for the word today, or word from the word today, is because, sometimes we have to be careful what we wish for. Job is finally going to get the answer. And as he gets that answer from God, he's going to get a lot of questions. And we'll even look at that a little bit tomorrow. But first and foremost, when God shows up, look at what he says. And he's speaking through a whirlwind of all things. And God speaks in a lot of different ways. And just to give us a glimpse of the power and the control that he has. But here today, Job chapter 38, verses 1 through 7 says, Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, Who is this who darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Now prepare yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me, if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? To what were its foundations fastened? Or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy. Now we'll just stop right there, but God continues to go on and ask question after question after question that Job simply cannot answer. See, Job is getting his answer right away. God says, wait a minute. Let's go back to the beginning. Where were you when it all began? Do you notice, though, that he says, who is this that darkens counsel without knowledge? See, now, before I say too much of this, if you read ahead and you see in chapter 42, he even commends Job for some of the things that he said about God when he's talking to the three friends, when God is talking to the three friends and talks about how poorly they spoke about God. So he does give Job credit because in all this, Job still did not sin, but his attitude, remember, his attitude is what was getting to the point of sinfulness. He was getting that arrogance and self-righteousness against God. And so God is setting the record straight with his answer. So it just simply says, hey, Job, where were you when I started everything? Have y'all ever, and I know we've hit on this a little bit, but have you ever just stopped to think? Job was talking about the wonders of God's creation. And even Elihu is alluding to some of that, and even talking about just knowing the fringes of God, just beginning to understand God. And even God is saying, okay, well, since you claim to know it all, if you claim to have all this wisdom and you think that I treated you wrongly and I wasn't, basically I was perverting my justice in your life, then let's just go back to the beginning. Let's see who's in charge, who's in control. And that's really what this week you're going to see. And so as the answering begins, here just simply saying, where were you? You notice he says, even when I love there in verse 7, when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. Some say that the angels, there it's used in that second part of the line. So very well could be talking about the first part, could be talking about the stars, or it could be talking about the angels. I kind of, there I say all the time in my spiritual imagination, I see this as the stars actually singing. I think they were singing in combination with the angels. I kind of get there again and you may laugh at this, but I know one of my daughters just got, for her birthday, just got some lights that will flash along with the music. And right, we've seen Christmas lights like that'll go along with the music. And you see it at concerts all the time that the lights are in tune with the music. But if you ever stop to think about just for a moment that when God created everything and when the angels were rejoicing and looking at the beautiful creation and everything that God had done, that even as they were singing praises, that the stars began to flash along with the beat. That's just the way I see it in my spiritual imagination. But can you imagine how beautiful something like that would be? And even as we sit here and cannot even begin to comprehend how that could ever even take place, how God could speak things into existence out of nothing. He didn't start with something and put it together. It came out of nothing. We can't even answer that question, yet we act like we have all the answers. You think about that, and that's what God is getting at with Job. He says, you can't even answer the beginning question. You and I know that God created the heavens and the earth, right? That he spoke everything to existence, but exactly how did that happen? Well, we can't answer that. So if we can't answer that, then we cannot answer why God does something according to his justice. We can't answer why and how God does things. I've told you before, it's okay to ask God a question, but it's not okay to question God. Job had been flirting with that. He had been asking God questions, but then he got to the point where he was questioning if God really had his best interest in mind. Well, today in this chapter and the rest of this week, we'll see that he gets his answer. But sometimes the answer only raises more questions. So today, how would you answer God today? What would be your answer if he says, are you trying to, speak out of ignorance, or are you speaking out of what God has told you already? Be careful what you ask for, and certainly be careful how you answer. God bless you, and I pray you have a great, great day.